Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 12, Devotional Service. Text 1. Arjun Uvacha Evam Satta Yukta Ye Bhaktastam Parupyasate Ye Chapi Akshram Avyakatam Tesham Ki Yoga Vitmaha.
Arjun inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship in the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested?
Text 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Devashya Manoyemam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Prapyote Pas Te Me Yukta Tama Muttaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect.
Text 3 and 4. Ye tvam aksharam aniradeshyam avyaktam paryuapasate sarvatra gam achantyam cha kutastham achlam dhruvam saniyame yendriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhya te pranupavantimam eva sarvabhuta hite ratha.
But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconvincible, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me.
Text 5. Klesho dikatirastesham avyakshakta chaitasham avyakta hi gatir dukham teva dhabir avyapyate.
For those whose mind are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied.
Text 6 and 7. Ye tu sarvani karmani maya sannyasa matpara anyane nyoiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate tesham aham samudarata mrityu samsara sagarat bhamina chirat partha maya devish avyeshita chetasham.
But those who worship me, giving up all their activities onto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pratha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death.
Text 8. Maya evam mana adhyastva maya buddhim niveshaya nivashyashti maya evam atam urdhavam na samshaya.
To fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt.
Text 9. Atha chittam samadhutam nasaknoshi mayi sthiram abhyasa yogena tato mam ichpatum dhanam jaya.
My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulatory principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me.
Text 10. Abhyase api asmarthosi mad karma parumo bhava mad artham api karmani kurvam siddham avapasyasi.
If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to me to the perfect stage.
Text 11. Arthat api akshatosi kartum mad yogam ashrita sarva karma phalatyagam tatha guru yatmadvan.
If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving all the results of your work and try to be self situated.
Text 12. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasayaj jnanam dhyanam vishishyasate dhyanat karma phala tyagas tyagak chantir anantaram.
If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind.
Text 13 and 14. Adveshata sarvabhutanam matre karuna evacha nirmamo nirakankara samadukha sukha kashami sanushta satam yogi yatatma trida nishchaya maya aprita mano buddhi yo mad bhakta same priya.
One who is not envious but is kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me.
Text 15. Yasmanno dijyate loko lokanno divyajate chayaha harashmarasha bhayoga devagaya mukto yaha sachame priya.
He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me.
Text 16. Aneksha suchirdaksha udasino gata vyatha sarvarambha pratiyagi yomad bhakta same priya.
My devotee, who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some results, is very dear to me.
Text 17. Yo na hiryashati na devasi na shochati na kankashati shubhan shubha parityagi bhaktimam yasame priya.
One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me.
Text 18, 19. Sama satru cha mitre cha तथा मन पद्मोन्योः सितो न सुखा दुखेषु समासंगा विव्राजिता तुल्या निंदा स्तुति मुनि चतुस्ते ये न केनाचित् अनिकेता शास्त्रा मतिर् भक्तिमं मे प्रियो नरा.
One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me.
Text 20. Ye tu dharmat kritam idam yado yatoktam prapyasate shraddhanan mat parama bhaktaste tiva me priya.
Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Meenakshi Mataji and Sunita Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you for this uplifting reading. So I'll share my screen. So we will be discussing verse number 15 today. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 12, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verse 15. Yasmano dvijate loko, lokano dvijate chaya, harsha marsha bhayodveger, mukto yasacha me priyaha. Yasmano dvijate loko, lokano dvijate chaya, harsha marsha bhayodveger, mukto yasacha me priyaha. Yasman, from whom, na, never, udvijate, are agitated, lokaha, people, lokat, from people, na, never, udvijate, is disturbed, cha, also, yaha, anyone who, harsha, from happiness, amarsha, distress, bhaya, fear, udvega, and anxiety, muktaha, freed, yah, who, sah, anyone, cha, also, may, to me, priyaha, very dear. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. Purport. A few of a devotee's qualifications are further being described. No one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such devotee. Since a devotee is kind to everyone, he does not act in such a way as to put others into anxiety. At the same time, if others try to put a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed. It is by the grace of the Lord that he is so practiced that he is not disturbed by any outward disturbance. Actually, because a devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness and engaged in devotional service, such material circumstances cannot move him. Generally, a materialistic person becomes very happy when there is something for his sense gratification and his body. But when he sees that others have something for their sense gratification and he hasn't, he is sorry and envious. When he is expecting some retaliation from an enemy, he is in a state of fear. And when he cannot successfully execute something, he becomes dejected. A devotee who is always transcendental to all these disturbances is very dear to Krishna. Hare Krishna. So we'll chant Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijan Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishibhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adigaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschata Desha Tarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangham
Hari Bol.
Kripakamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatharam Paramananda Madhum Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. Welcome all to this Saturday evening chat program, special month of Srila Prabhupada's book marathon. So in this month we are doing Bhagavad Gita chapter 20, devotional service. And we are on the verse number 15. So verse number 13 until 20, Lord Sri Krishna is describing the qualities of his dear devotees. And we are now discussing today's verse that few qualities of these devotees are described as one by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety is very dear to me. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has given comparison of how someone who is not a devotee, what is his or her reaction as compared to someone who is a devotee. How does that devotee take a situation which is not very palatable? So, beautiful qualities is actually portrayed by many of the devotees. First of all, Srila Prabhupada himself. Now, if we remember his beautiful transcendental activities that he performed before going to the West and then in the West, he never put anyone in difficulty and is not disturbed by anyone. In all situations, Srila Prabhupada was very focused. The single goal of distributing Krishna consciousness all over the world. And He was equipoised in happiness and distress. So when Srila Prabhupada left India, he had 40 rupees or something. And when he returned to India, he had 40 crores or something. That's 40 crores Indian currency, maybe 40 million or 400 million. And then, but his situation was exactly the same. His activities were exactly the same. He was always distributing the mercies of the parampara, mercy of Sri Krishna Bhagavan, distributing the literature, translating, and engaging his devotees, opening so many temples. In all situations, it was exactly the same. No fear, no anxiety. His name is Abhay Charan. So Abhay Charan means who's fearless at the lotus feet of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada exhibited all these qualities so wonderfully. Yeah. And the choice for us is the same. So if you want to be part of the spiritual world, that Srila Prabhupada was always in the spiritual world because he was always connected to Krishna. And how was he connected to Krishna? Because all his life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and his spiritual master. So our choices are also the same. We can be engaged. If we are engaged in the service of the Lord and the Guru Parampara, we are in the spiritual world. If we are not, then we are in the material world. It's simple. And when we are engaged in the service of the Lord, all these qualities do manifest automatically. We have no selfish motive. Then these qualities just appear because someone can only be, like Prabhu was explaining here, a materialistic person becomes very happy when there is something for his sense gratification. But for devotees, everything is for the satisfaction of the Lord. Ishikena, Ishikesha. It's always about the satisfaction of the Lord's senses, not the devotee's own senses or his body. And when he sees the others have something for their sense gratification, a materialistic person is not very happy. He is always envious. When a devotee sees someone with the material opulence, he wants to engage. He first of all, how does he think or she think that, oh, the devotee does not think that, okay, he must have done some or she must have done some wrong thing. That's why they have this opulence or that opulence. They always think that he must have some good karma. And the devotees always try to engage everyone in the service of the Lord. That's the quality of devotee. And a materialistic person is expecting some retaliation from the enemy. For a devotee, there is no enemy. Like we discussed previously, Yudhishthira Maharaj was called Ajat Shatru, means his enemy was never born. For him, no one was an enemy. So he was never put into anxiety by everyone, by the Kauravas. But for him, they were not still their enemy, not his enemy. And a materialistic person is always in a state of fear because he always wants to hold on to something. And devotee is always detached. He always takes everything as the mercy of the Lord. Yeah, so there is no situation of fear because if there is something good coming up, it is the mercy of the Lord. If something not so good coming up, then also devotee is always happy. It's the mercy of the Lord. So that's why devotee is never in the fear to lose anything because he never thinks that he owns anything. There is fear, sense of fear when we think that we own something. But we don't have that thought in the mind that this is mine. I, me, and mine. When we are away from the I, me, and mine concept, then there is no fear left. And when a materialistic person cannot successfully execute something, he becomes dejected because he's thinking he's trying to act on his own strength. And a devotee is working on the strength of the Lord and Guru Parampara. If we get something, success, and get some success, then devotee thanks Lord. And if don't get success, the devotee is always still grateful to the Lord. Yeah, because there's so many pastimes that Prabhupada, sometimes devotees arranged some program for Srila Prabhupada, then hardly anyone came for the program. And devotees were, dejected and saying, Prabhupada, we're really sorry we could not get so many. Prabhupada was not at all, he said, no, it was perfectly fine. Did you not see so many devotees had come? He said, did you not see Narad Muni was there? Prabhupada was always in the state of joy. It's about the effort that devotees put. That efforts are sufficient to please the Lord. It's not about the result, it's about the effort. Now, devotee understands that it is the Lord's mercy in all situations. So, devotee, that's why, is always transcendental to all these disturbances, and that's why the devotees are dear to Krishna. There are so many examples in this conscious of time. We've got 4 more minutes, then we will lift up the books. Or maybe anyone thinking of any examples from apart from Srila Prabhupada we discussed. There was also example in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Like Srivas Thakur was an example. Then we discussed Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivas Adigaura Bhakta, Srivas Thakur. So he was a great devotee of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all his associates will always assemble in his house, and they would do kirtan all night. But there were some people who were envious of Srivas Thakur because they wanted to go in, but they could not get entry because they were not the close associates, devotees of the Lord. So they made a plan to defame Srivas Thakur. There was one person called Gopal Chapal. He conceived a plan. He put outside Srivas Thakur's home, he put some paraphernalia of worshipping Kali, Durga, and there could be all sorts of things there, which is not acceptable, which is not to be even touched by Vaishnavas. So Gopal Chapal wanted to defame Srivas Thakur that he's acting like he's a Vaishnava, but actually see what he's doing. He's actually a Shakta. He's worshipping Kali, Durga with all these paraphernalia, all sorts of things. I can't even describe. So Srivas Thakur, when he came out in the morning, he saw all this paraphernalia was lying outside his house. He actually started to call the neighbors to see, you think I am a Vaishnava? Look what I'm doing. What's outside my house? All these worshipping items. So I'm not a Vaishnava. I'm just a Kali Bhakta. Look at all these items which are lying here. Yeah. So the neighbors were obviously, they knew that he's a Vaishnava, he's a devotee. But they were not willing to accept. Gopal Chapal wanted to create that wrong impression. But Srivas Thakur's response was, he was totally indifferent. He was not at all distressed. There's also example of Haridas Thakur in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was those men of the king. They were trying to beat him in 22 marketplace, and their job was to execute or to kill Haridas Thakur. So they were, beating him in the one market. 22 market means they go around market to market and beat him in every market until the time the person is dead. So that was the punishment those days. So they were beating Haridas Thakur, 21 marketplace. Haridas Thakur was still there. And then they started to discuss amongst each other, oh, look, he's not even dying. We've beaten him so much. Now, if he doesn't die, what will king do to us? We will be in deep trouble. Haridas Thakur hears that. He thinks, oh, these people will be in trouble. So he goes in samadhi. So he stops breathing. So they think, oh, he's now finally dead. They are relieved. So to relieve their fear, their anxiety, Haridas Thakur, gives them that, the freedom from fear. And actually he prays also to the Lord that, Lord, please forgive them. Same like Jesus Christ, he also was praying to the Lord, please forgive them. They know not what they're doing. This is the quality of devotees. They're always free from anxiety, free from enmity, and they can never be put into difficulty by anyone. and they would never put anyone into difficulty. So this is a beautiful verse, and I think tomorrow we'll continue with the next verse, continue with the various qualities of a devotee. Now we will discuss, or I will read our family business book. I'm starting from page number 106. I don't have don't think anyone has an e-version of the book. So Jyoti Mataji, I will be just reading, right? Just to confirm.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, I have one question relating to what we have.
Okay, shall we take the question after
read
we
about.
read, or I don't know how we're doing normally.
Okay.
Go on. Okay, can you hold on to that question, Mataji? Is that okay?
Sure. I thought
I'll
it
read
would be a
for-
continuity to this Bhagavad Gita. Okay, fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so does anyone remember where we were yesterday? I mean, should I start top of the page, 106? Okay. So I'll read now. So another devotee who helped start with the new paragraph. Another devotee who helped build the Indian book distribution team is Bhimasen Das, an American who had served on the Radha Damodar bus party and now was switching places with another American, Janna Pavana Das, who was in India and wanting to return to the US. Bhimasen landed in India inspired to create a traveling bus program similar to the Radha Damodar party. So his memory then. When I first arrived in India in October of 1977, book distribution was scanty. After arriving, I was appointed a Sankirtan leader in Bombay and thought that maybe I could do in India what the Radha Damodar team had done in North America. Sri Nathaji Das, then N.D. Desai, at once donated a bus. Later he gave another one. One of our big events was in Pandharpur, where we sold over 1,000 copies of the newly released Marathi Bhagavad Gita as it is. We then drove the buses all over Maharashtra, and over time we sold tens of thousands of Marathi Gitas. I always wondered what might result from our distributing so many books in Maharashtra. Later I saw that in that region there were many new devotees. I could see the result for myself. Yasomanti Nandan Das described the growth of the Indian bus parties. Following Bhimasena's lead, after some time, both the Mayapur and Bombay temples, and then other ISKCON communities, developed traveling bus programs. These traveling buses went to crowded marketplaces, opened the rear doors of their customized temple buses, and displayed the deities alongside Srila Prabhupada's books. The distributors then announced over the loudspeakers attached to their buses, "Come and take these books." People would come in droves to see the deities and buy books by thousands. There was a Jagannath bus in Bombay and a Gaur Nitai bus in Mayapur. Just like the Radha Damodar bus parties in North America, the Indian bus parties would cook their own prasad on the buses and distribute it. Amazing. They were cooking prasad in the bus and distributing. They were distributing the books at the same time. When devotees joined in those days in the early 1980s, the main service would be to go out on book distribution. Then Mahakumbh Mela. Another historical breakthrough for Indian book distribution came in 1977 at the Mahakumbh Mela in Allahabad. Bhagavata Das, who helped Guru Das manage the ISKCON camp at the Mela and had signed a contract for what he is told was an ideal place for ISKCON's site. But he and the other devotees were disappointed to find that the ISKCON encampment he had paid for in advance was actually in a remote area under a railroad bridge. Giriraj Swami describes the scene. Srila Prabhupada, who always saw how to turn things in our favor, said, do massive Harinam and book distribution throughout the Mela. Despite our being in a remote location, we ended up the hit of the festival. Easy Journey to Other Planets in Hindi was selling by thousands. In India, people are very fascinated with Journey to the Other Planets because it's quite common. And that's why the book was going in thousands. And after a while, people were approaching the devotees asking for the book, shouting, Shubha Yatra, Shubhan Yatra, Shubhan Yatra, easy journey, easy journey. Guru Kripa Swami arranged to feed the book distributors and chanters opulent prasad, halwa, and fried potatoes. So the devotees stayed enlivened throughout the event. Thousands of books went out, and people all over the Mela heard the chanting of the Mahamantra. Srila Prabhupada was very pleased. This Mahakumbh Mela planted the idea among Indian leaders that they could sell a lot of books during big festivals. And the Indian devotees have gone on to push forward book distribution in many ways. They have actualized Srila Prabhupada's statement to Gopal Krishna Goswami. In India, we can distribute more books than any other place in the world. Now, Japan. In the mid-1970s, Guru Kripa Swami took with him to Japan a team of devotees he called Namhatta. On the team, he included Yashodanandan Swami and devotees from all over the world, sent by various temples, who would focus on collecting funds for Srila Prabhupada's projects in Mayapur and Vrindavan. The Namhatta party not only gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to help construct ISKCON's new temples and dhamas, but it distributed thousands of BTGs in Japanese every month throughout Japan. Bana Bhatta Das, one of the biggest collectors on that Namhatta, recalls how he distributed at least 200 copies of BTGs in Japanese every day. We had green army bags that would hold 1,000 BTGs, and we would lug the bags around. It was difficult. We would keep 200 with us in our side bag and 25 in our hands. That's a lot of books. 25 in the hands, 200 in the bag. And then what happened? The Europe catches fire. Lochanananda Das, who was stationed at ISKCON France in the early 1970s, described the beginning of book distribution there. In 1970, we had access to a mimeograph machine, just like the one that the devotees were using in America. The machine was at a cultural hall in Paris called the American Center, where they held events, including dancing and night clubbing on Saturday nights. We would mimeograph papers on that machine and bring them back to my apartment, where we would assemble them into a single BTG. I lived in a studio apartment, which was the first ISKCON temple in Paris. Tamal Krishna and his wife lived there with me. When Tamal and his wife went to LA, Yogeshwar and his wife moved in. We did Harinam, but it was hard to get literature. We had to make it ourselves. Look at the amount of effort devotees are putting. They were creating, writing, but not writing. So they were using a mimeograph machine to create copies and binding the books. Yogeshwar and his wife, and then when Srila Prabhupada visited Paris, I told him an interpreter for the United Nations had translated his Krishna book into French. The man wasn't even a devotee, but had read and read and liked Krishna book so much that he had spontaneously translated it. Jai. When Srila Prabhupada heard this, tears came to his eyes and he said, get it typeset, laid out and printed, and then inundate the whole of France into the Krishna book. From that incident, I saw for myself how important book distribution was to Srila Prabhupada. Later, I was involved in book distribution in Holland. Devotees translated On the Way to Krishna and other small books into Dutch. The Dutch devotees were doing really big. We also started doing Sankirtan in Belgium, where we were getting really big donations. To accommodate both places, we made 2 editions of BTG, one for Belgium and one for Holland. We sold the fancier ones in Belgium at a higher cost. Altogether, we printed 150,000 BTGs and had no problem selling them. Devotees would go out with 2 book bags slung over their backs and wouldn't come back until all the books were gone. We had meetings on Sunday so that everyone could learn to distribute books. Because Srila Prabhupada had said that everyone should go out on book distribution. This is a statement for everyone. Meanwhile, Hayeshwara Das had been working on translating the Gita into Dutch. When Srila Prabhupada heard about this, he wrote me a letter saying, "Do it nicely. It's very important work." When the book was printed, Hayeshwar went into Srila Prabhupada's room in Mayapur to show it to him. It was an ecstatic moment. Showing Srila Prabhupada these new publications was always a momentous event. Between 1971 and 1972, French devotees went out for 6 to 8 hours a day onto the streets to chant Hare Krishna, led by Indradimna Swami, at the time Indradimna Das, and Lochanananda Das. The devotees were out for so many hours each day that they became part of the street scene in Paris. Harivilas Das recalls. People were amused that they could predict where we would be every day. Later, when we finally got books, our distributors found it easy to sell them because our chanting was part of the downtown scene and people liked us. They even used to invite us into their shops. We also got into the movies and on the radio. Some devotees dressed up as Sita Ram and Radha Krishna and went door to door to collect donations and to give out the magazines. When the first BBT book arrived in France in 1973, devotees went out everywhere and sold them. But what really got the book distribution going in Europe was the arrival of Yogesh Chandra. He made it explode. He came from America and the Radha Damodar party and introduced all the techniques for organizing that had started there. Besides the French devotees learning new techniques for distributing books, a series of new French translations of the books created fresh enthusiasm. Translating the absolute truth. Translating ordinary literature is challenging enough, but when the literature contains terms that don't exist in one's native language, the task becomes more difficult. For example, in Japanese, there is no word for devotee. There is no word in Japanese for devotee. The Japanese translators therefore had to invent a term, kenshinsha. Ken means offer, shin means body, aha means person, and I means love. So essentially, a kenshinsha is a person who dedicates his or her being to a cause, a devotee. Other languages have their own translation challenges. A phrase like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, exotic even in English, exotic even in English, but one we have come to take for granted has proved difficult to capture in a number of languages. The one that we have taken for granted, like Supreme Personality of Godhead, is actually, it is the first time, and Srila Prabhupada is the one actually who's used this term, and many of the people in India, when we give them books, Bhagavad Gita, they have other versions from other, Mayavadis or other religious organizations. They don't understand this word. What does it mean, Supreme Personality of Godhead? Because no one wants to give Krishna a form, a personality. This is Srila Prabhupada's, fantastic introduction to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's trademark term, devotional service, has created another translation hurdle. Devotional service is also a translation hurdle. Still, devotee translators, sometimes in consultation with the language professionals and sometimes just among themselves, found workarounds for all the unfamiliar Sanskrit and devotional terms and rendered them into their native languages with the aim of educating their countrymen in the science of Bhakti Yoga. Speaking to a guest in Malaysia on February 26, 1973, Srila Prabhupada urged him to help spread Krishna consciousness in his country. Bhagavad Gita is the science of religion, science of God. So if you take this book seriously and try to spread this knowledge among your countrymen, I think you will be very much benefited. In a similar vein, while speaking to devotees in Geneva, Switzerland on June 1, 1974, Srila Prabhupada tells them, try to remain in your position as a devotee, and as far as possible, teach these rascals who are simply attracted by glaring material stones and woods, and let them have some knowledge and do benefit to your countrymen, to your society, to your family. In his 1992 Vyas Puja offering to Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Charu Swami writes, you instructed me to translate your books into Bengali and personally trained me to do that job. Once when you were in Bombay, you even told me, just translate my books and go back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada encouraged his followers to break the boundaries of language and culture to introduce Krishna consciousness. To do this, he frequently gave the example that if a man's house is burning and he needs help, he will somehow or other get his message across to his neighbors, even if he does not know their language. Nonetheless, translating philosophical books about Krishna is not only a highly technical skill, but it also requires a translator who is devoted to Krishna. In his purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 2.4.22, Srila Prabhupada writes, no mundane scholar can translate or reveal the true import of the Vedic mantras, hymns. They cannot be understood unless one is inspired or initiated by the authorized spiritual master. Should we stop here? This is 9. So any realizations or any, sorry, Mataji had some questions? Are we doing okay? Anyone, Mataji, this is the right time to stop or we can continue reading? Please suggest.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can stop. Can I just ask you which page number you stopped?
Yeah. So I stopped at page number 112.
112. Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, sorry, Sunita Mataji, you had a question before, sorry.
Yes, Prabhuji, just related to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, which we just read. Right.
Okay, sure.
I know it. Yeah, it's just about I know devotional service. All the devotees of the Lord who worship Him and follow the path of Bhakti Yoga, who renounce the fruits of their work and totally dependent on Krishna, and about they feel they are equipped in happiness and despair, which is very difficult for even a devotee to do that. You know, it on the times of difficult times, they are in the anxiety, they are in the distress. If someone passed away, they are actually they feel it. Yeah, and also they are always engaging in devotional service and they follow Bhakti Yoga. And there are people outside who are very very pious in their own way, do loads of things, helping others, follow do humanitarian things, very kind, very peaceful. So I know this whole chapter is about the devotees who worship Krishna, but how about those people who are not Krishna conscious, but they are still very pious? Are they not dear to Krishna?
Yeah, good question. So what we're saying is, all through this section 13 to 20, Krishna is explaining who are the devotees dear to him and explaining all the qualities. Yeah. But the beginning of the chapter is about those who worship Krishna. So what's the difference? Ultimately, Mataji, everyone has to surrender to Krishna. Now, the example that you are giving is, as I understand this right, so there are people outside in the world who are very pious, who perform charitable activities, who help the needy, the poor, they help in education. There are so many, as you said, pious souls doing so many things, which is very nice. So the result of that is what? So as what we understand from Bhagavad Gita, performing pious activities means they are in mode of goodness, and mode of goodness means the outcome will be what they will again get some benefit of those good activities that they're doing. So so they are, they will work in the cycle of the karma, which is fine, absolutely fine. They can come back to the material world, and they can, maybe reap some benefits of the good pious activities they have done. And the way this life goes is, it is extremely difficult for anyone to be fully clear and performing only the pious activities. There will be some activities which will not be pious. So as part of this life, they will always have some other flavors as well. And then they can just carry on. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jasare shayyam. So material life, eventually a devotee understands that, Deviyesha Gunamai, Mama Maya Durathaya. Ultimately, the Mama Maya Durathaya, the Maya Devi is Durathaya, means difficult to overcome. So anyone who is in the good, pious mindset, they also have to go through certain miseries. And in the end, there are others also, like there are impersonalists also, they may be also doing good things. But what we get from Krishna is that sweetness, the happiness of the soul, because the soul belongs to Krishna. Yeah. So if we belong to someone, until the time we go our home, we cannot be happy. So it is about finding our home, which is more important than coming back to this place, which is always temporary, and a little bit of doing good with some good results does not really satisfy the heart. Yeah. Sorry, you are on mute, Mataji.
Yes, sorry, Prabhuji, I'm sure all these activities which they do is also, don't think so, is not noticed by Krishna. He does notice all their activities as well.
Krishna, so what we are saying is, Krishna has created this material world for us. We want to enjoy, separate from him. So the facilities are, this is going on auto run. He's not taking interest unless the time we are taking interest. If someone is doing pious activities but has no interest in Krishna, is managed by Durga Devi as per the law of karma and the law of the material world. So they come and they go, and they come and they go, they carry on, because they never ask for Krishna. Krishna has created a facility for them. So it's a nice jail, as the Prabhupada explains. It's a prison house. Someone is having a good facility in the prison. Someone is not having a not so good facility in the prison. So ultimately, it is about still a prison. This jail is called Durga. Durga Devi's Durga means it's still a prison, because you cannot get out. To get out of this prison, we need Krishna's help. So that's the choice someone will have to make.
Yes, I'm just saying, I know we're talking about like demigods and all that worshipping. I mean, there are other religions outside India, which the people are doing so many activities, helping wherever they can, and they're very peaceful. I'm just saying that I'm sure there's their activities, their pious activities doesn't go unnoticeable by Krishna.
Well, as I
Just
said,
see that. Like
this is what we are saying. This is a business. This is a business thing, right? They have done good activities. They will get good response, good result for that. Yes, absolutely. There's no doubt. So Krishna, in the sense, not directly involved, but one way Krishna is involved in everything. So Krishna has appointed his agents, so that if someone does not want to be, linked to Krishna, but they want to be in this material world, ultimately Krishna has created this facility. Okay, those people who are pious souls want to do some good activities. They want to stay around here. There's a facility for them to, yes, they can stay around and, they can carry on. They will get some birth in a good house, good family. But the main thing is that they're not connected to Krishna. Krishna is not connected to them. I think it's a fair, that's why Krishna has a personality, right? It's fair enough. Like if let's say, for example, someone is doing some good things um, at the work, for example, at work, someone does and they do some good work and they get promoted, they get some more, salary, and they carry on. But they have never seen who the owner is. Owner has never seen who that person is. It is automatically that's how the work is defined. So this is the same example. They just can carry on. There's no problem with that. It's the choice. The suffering is still there.
I'm just saying that obviously not for us, everything is Krishna, everything goes around Krishna. But they don't know about Krishna. So my understanding is, so everybody has to know Krishna, then they can't do without Krishna. As a devotee, we think, yes, that's true, but they don't have to know Krishna. Is that the thing? Can they do without Krishna? Can they do without knowing Krishna?
Yeah. So
that only then they can be very dear to Krishna.
see, because what Krishna is the whole this conversation is about what Krishna says, one who is my devotee. Yeah. So I'll read the chapter, the verse before that. For him, he will deliver them from this material world. But some pious soul, which is difficult to call pious because it's in one way very difficult to be not connected to God and stay pious. People may call different namakari Bauddha, they may have different names. You're not saying that call Krishna. That Prabhupada said, to all the other religions also, that they can just love God. That's the main definition. But if you want to know more about God, then we tell you, here's our proposal. This is Krishna. This is what he does. This is where he lives. So Prabhupada gives a detailed explanation to all those theologians and theologians as to where Krishna, where the God is, who is, what his personality is. Yeah. But otherwise, if they have their own God and whatever they're doing, that's fine. They can carry on. I don't know whether I'm able to connect to your question.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, are you referring to other religions who are doing good things? Or
I'm just.
I've not seen many people who very pious, but they're atheist. I don't know many, so I don't know. But they could be atheist and they could be pious. But you're referring to other.
Yeah, I was referring to other religion outside India. Yeah. But because this chapter was particularly about devotees, those devotees are very, very dear to me. Only people who knows Krishna. Then how about the rest? That was I was thinking about. That was I wanted to know.
They have their own way of connecting to Krishna in different ways. That's fine. So Krishna is, for us, where is Krishna? Krishna is in Vrindavan. Yeah. Even what to speak of other religions within India also, within the Hindus also, that people have their own destination. People have their own choices. For us, Krishna is in Vrindavan, so we want to be in Vrindavan. For us, the highest devotees are Vrindavan Vrajvasis. So, Krishna, that's our Krishna. That's the Krishna we love. In the three wings. Because he's so sweet.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, can I say something?
Hey, please, Mataji, go ahead.
Because Krishna, eventually everybody will come to Krishna. After suffering, after doing a lot of pious activities or praying to the demigods, eventually they will come to Krishna. Because if Mataji is saying, how about those who will never know Krishna? It isn't. It's now Krishna consciousness is spreading throughout the world. Americans are becoming Hindus, and stronger Hindus than, Hindus in India. And, the remote Chinese, Pakistan, there's devotees everywhere. and devotees are going all over the place, so they do get to hear consciously or unconsciously. And if they are, if they have samskriti, they will eventually come to Krishna.
Yeah.
Because you cannot finish this life, the life circle until you come to Krishna.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could be going through the whole this human life is very valuable. And once, if we haven't realized Krishna in this, next life we could be a tree, a pious tree, or a lovely fluffy dog.
No, Mataji. Yes, I think it can be, I don't think Prabhupada signs up to that. If someone is pious, because their objects in Abrahamical religion, their objective is to go to heaven and enjoy in heaven. For us, we understand in our scripture that heaven is only a place where you will still be temporarily there, maybe having some nice facility. You come back to material world after that. So all the other religions, they only describe as far as heaven. If you either you go to heaven or you go to hell. There's no other place for them. So for us, it is beyond heaven. So the pious people can have good life here. Maybe they can go to heaven. Maybe they can enjoy. But then there is a timeline. Brahma bhuna loka punaravartino Arjuna. So after some time, even if they go up to the planets of Brahma, they can still come down. They still have to come down because they will be still bound by the time factor. So that, as Mataji was saying, is only the prerogative of Krishna, that he is Mukunda, he can grant that liberation when someone desires that. Yeah. So that is, eventually it is everyone's desire that where they want to go. It is not that everyone will go to Krishna. I mean, indirectly they're all following Krishna's. Indirectly they're all worshipping Krishna. Indirectly Krishna is giving them the benefit of all their good karmas. Yeah, it is all under Krishna's control. He's the prime minister or the owner. Not prime minister, not a minister, he's the owner. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that answer, that they will go to the heavenly planets and then they can come back. Yes, you're right. And we know there is something beyond that as Goloka Vrindavan, and above that, only devotees know. Then it makes sense. Those devotees are very dear to me and they will serve him in Goloka Vrindavan as well.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry, it
Makes
took
sense.
me a while to get to understand. So
Yeah, because the other religions, they talk about, they do pious activities, but they also talk about heaven, nothing beyond heaven. And we, as a devotee, we know beyond heaven as well. There is
yes.
Goloka Vrindavan,
Yes.
Vaikuntha, and they don't know. So
They don't.
nowadays it makes really sense to me, very dear to me, and they're gonna serve eternally in Goloka Vrindavan, Vaikuntha. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Good question, good discussion. See, I know you know all these things. Thank you.
Thank
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. And have a great Sunday tomorrow. And go out book distribution. We should all go, as Prabhupada has directed us, out of gratitude to what we are receiving from Srila Prabhupada. We should respond with that love. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice
Thank you, Prabhuji,
class.
for a
Thank you,
nice
Prabhuji,
class.
for the
Hare
Thank you,
wonderful.
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Prabhuji.
much, Prabhu.
Wonderful class.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.